will so Olivia, could you go ahead and pull up the slide deck? So while that's coming up, I will just say we really want to thank everybody for being here this evening and taking time out of your Friday evening for this very important process. We're going to go through just a handful of slides here, just to describe what the charter is, what the Charter Commission is working on, and then we want to open it up for public comment. And so when we get into public comment, and I'll repeat this when we start, but we're going to try and limit everybody to 3 to 4 minutes in that range. We should have enough time to really get into a good discussion and let anybody raise their questions and comments that they have. When you do speak, please raise your hand, both using the raise your hand opportunity or raise your hand physically. And then also state your name and maybe where you live, just so we get a sense of where people are. And then I saw one hand up. Was that a question right now, or was that just practicing? Okay. So, all right, I can't tell if somebody was trying to speak. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go through these slides really. What's that? Okay. So I'm Kevin Ranker, and I'm one member of the Charter Review Commission, and we will have a slide here in just a minute going through showing you everybody who's been elected to your Charter Review Commission. I'm the chair, and Olivia Roseberry is our vice chair. We'll get to the others in just a moment. But what I'd like to do now is just go through this deck quickly so that we can get into your comments. So Olivia, if we can go to the next slide. Thanks. So in our San Juan County Charter currently under Section 0.3, we talk about what the Charter Commission does and what the charter is. And you don't have to read all this. What I would say, the best description I've heard actually came from Ron Sims, who just finished chairing the King County Charter Review Commission down there. And he described the charter as the county's constitution. And I think that's a good way to think about it. The county charter does not create policy. It does not create different actions that the county can take. What it does is it creates the baseline. It creates the structure of what the county is and how the county will govern. And we'll get into some examples of that in a little bit. But when you think about the county charter, it's the idea of how many elected officials do you have? Who are they? What departments do you have? What is the general focus of the county? But again, not creating the policies, creating the platforms that will allow good policies to take place. Next slide. So our charters are allowed, the home rule is what it's called, charter is allowed under a state constitution. And there's basically two forms of county government. We used to be the former, which is the constitutional form of government, where you have 3 county commissioners and the different elected positions set up under the Constitution. The other form of government is a home rule charter, which allows us to pretty much create our government, how we want it to look. The only positions that we can't alter or change are the prosecuting attorney and the courts, because those are also shared with the state. For the most part, not entirely, but for the most part, we can make other changes where we feel fit as a citizenry of this county. Next slide, please. So here's your Charter Review Commissioners who you elected, different members from San Juan Island, from Lopez, and from Orcas, representing all 3 of the districts. We were elected by our districts, so the County Charter Review Commissioners at this point are only elected by the district. So I ran on Orcas Island, and people on Orcas Island were able to vote for me or not vote for me. And similarly on San Juan and Lopez. And the breakdown is that there's a few more from San Juan because they have a larger population, and then Orcas, and then Lopez. Next slide. So this gets into some of our discussion for tonight. So there were a number of different topics that the Charter Review Commissioners brought to the table when they got elected, after talking to their neighbors and friends and others and just hearing different aspects as well as their own opinions. And those were broken up into different subcommittees. And I'll get to the topics that are being discussed right now on the next slide. But quickly, there's one for the charter review process, which is kind of nuts and bolts. There's a number of issues on climate and environment, and you can see going down, and we'll get into these on the next slide. So why don't we go? And oh, and by the way, the names there, those are the chairs of those subcommittees, the breakout committees of the Charter Review Commission working on each one of these subjects. They're meeting separately right now from the full commission. So the commission meets every single week. And then the Charter Review Commission subcommittees are also, almost all of them are meeting at least once a week as well. So next slide, please. So here's some of the topics that have come up so far. And what we're hoping this evening is that we will get more ideas from you as the citizens of the county, as well as responses to some of these. So we're open to new ideas, and we're open to your opinion on any of these ideas. So let's go through these quickly. So in that first subcommittee, the charter review process, there's a discussion of whether or not the tourism and vacation processes that are underway, how those work and how they could work in the future, maybe differently. There's a discussion of a kind of rights of nature. So should we have something in our county charter that lays out a protocol for the rights for our natural environment? There's different ideas of looking at the comprehensive plan and so on, and how that relates to some of the policies and such that are put forward. Under climate and environment, there's a number of different topics. And what I'm doing is highlighting right now just the ones that are really gaining traction in these subcommittees. There's an active discussion of whether or not San Juan County should have an independently elected climate commissioner. So an independently elected official whose sole purpose would be to work on climate change and actions and resiliency. And then should we create an office of climate and resiliency, a separate department within the county? There's a significant amount of discussion regarding the different elected officials, and so should some of them be elected or appointed? Should there be some consolidation of some of the different departments that are under elected officials? Should the sheriff be elected or appointed? There's also a separate subcommittee looking separately just at matters of election. How could we create even greater transparency for the observations? There's a discussion of the districts that people are elected to from the different districts currently, and should those be looked at differently, or maybe the language describing them differently? Next slide, please. Governance. So this is really looking at the internal governance of the organization of the county. So looking at the relationship between the county manager and the county council. What's their scope of work, and how does it work, and maybe where could there be some improvements? There's a discussion of self-governance, and there's some questions here on the legality of this, but there's an active discussion of whether or not islands could self-govern separate from the county, and what would local control look like if it were possible. And there's, like I said, there's some pretty heavy questions there that we're diving into, but that discussion still is ongoing. There's also a fairly active discussion of the citizens committees. We have dozens of citizens committees in this county. How do they best serve the public and the county government? And how does the county government best serve the members of those committees? Initiative and referendum, there's a discussion of electronic signatures being available. Particularly in a year like this, it was very different. It was impossible to go out and signature gather. So what would you do? But also, what would that look like in the future? Also, broadening the rights of the initiative process in San Juan County. How could that happen so that it's more easily available for citizens and still has the protections to not make, to disallow as much as possible frivolous initiatives for coming forward? There's a justice and equity subcommittee, which is actively looking at the issues of equity and equality and racial justice and so on in San Juan County. There's an active discussion of the creation of a citizens oversight committee over the full law and justice program. So not just the sheriff, but the prosecutor and the courts as well. There's a discussion of how we can have a more representatory county government. So how do we look at issues of equity, diversity, inclusion, non-discrimination, and so on within our county government? There's some wonderful state laws that have been passed recently. How do we know if we're following them appropriately? Like, for instance, equal pay and so on. There's an operations subcommittee which is looking at some of the internal operations, like the personnel manuals, policies, public records, and so on. And so I believe that's it for our subcommittees. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, so that's it for the presentation. We want to spend the rest of the time this evening really getting into hearing from you. And so if we could stop sharing the screen. And what I will ask is that if you would like to speak, if you'd like to comment, and again, you can comment on any of those issues that we just brought up, and obviously any new issues that you may have that you want to share. But the charter review happens once every 10 years. So if we think of this like our constitution for our county, we have one opportunity now to really go through this process and make it not just worthwhile, but really inspiring for our citizens and for the future of our county. So that's the opportunity we have over the next few months. And quickly, I should say, we will be meeting, our hope is that we will have recommendations coming forward by June. And first those go to the county council. The county council is required to forward those on for general election in November. So on the November ballot, there will be amendments to the charter. There's an opportunity that we have as a Charter Review Commission to extend our working period through the end of the year and possibly put forward a second round of amendments for the following November. At this point, that is not necessarily our intention. Our intention, our hope is that we would have recommendations completed by June. And then between June and November, the citizens of San Juan County would get to review those, ask questions, think about those. And in November, we would all vote on those and decide what changes we want to make. And again, could be anything we're already discussing or any new ideas that come up tonight. And the last thing I'll say is there's also another town hall tomorrow afternoon, 2 to 4, I think is what we said for that one. I can't remember. 2 to 4. People are nodding. Thank you. So 2 to 4 tomorrow, and that information is available on our website as well. So we're going to go into public comment. We'd like to try and limit it just because we have a lot of people here this evening, which is fantastic. Try and limit the public comment to 3 to 5 minutes and closer to the 3. I'm not really just going to cut you off, but we'd really like to try and limit it so that everybody has a chance to speak. After everybody's spoken, if somebody wants to go a second time, you can, but let's try and get through everybody. Again, we'd like you to raise your hand, either using the application of Zoom, or you can physically raise your hand and we'll be toggling between the 3 screens we have here this evening. And then lastly, if you could state your name for the record, that's really important that we get your name when you comment. And then just so we get a sense, if you could just tell us where you live as well. And so with that, who would like to open it up tonight? All right, I see Henning.
Okay. My name is Henning Samstorff. I'm on Lopez Island, and I'm speaking for myself and for Transition Lopez. And I just have the practical question. I noticed that the Committee on Climate and Environment is headed by Anne Marie Shanks. I don't know this person. How do I and how does Transition Lopez get into a conversation with her? Because it would seem to me that her intentions for climate and environment overlap to a considerable degree with the intentions of Transition Lopez. So how is that done?
All of our emails are our county emails, and they're all on the website. And so if you want to go to the county website, you can get to our emails quite easily. But I will tell you right now that everybody's email is their first name and their last initial. So maybe I just blew it and there's some big secret, but if you want to email anybody in the county, almost everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody is their first name and their last initial, unless there's similar people and then they've scrambled them. So she would be Anne-Marie S. at sanjuanco.com.
Very good. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate
You're welcome. Okay, so let's see other hands, and I'm toggling through, but I see a lot of people who don't have a video on. So maybe there's bandwidth issues and you're just on a phone. Alexandra, would you like to go?
Thanks. I've read through the agendas and the minutes from the meetings that were available online, and these are the five.
I'm sorry. I know
Alexandra Gaia, Orcas Island.
Thank you.
I So the things I want to just mention quickly are, I agree with banning paid signature gathering for initiatives and referenda. I agree with lowering the signature percentages for referenda and agenda and initiatives. I suggest publicly funded elections and ranked choice voting. And I strongly support one person, one voice. And what that means is, in all matters in which the commission calls in experts, I want us to be careful not to have members of the community who have not been elected to speak for a particular demographic be presumed to speak for them. For example, we take somebody who's well-known in the community because they work with the seniors, to presume that that person speaks for all the seniors in the community. Or you pick some person of color and assume that they speak for other people of color, unless there's been a group of people who have said, yes, we want this person to speak for us. I think we need to be really careful about presuming that we have representatives from different groups who are speaking for those groups. I also feel really strongly that we not elevate members of what we call the business community to have more of a voice than other members of the community. And this happens all the time. I protest the assumption that people who are supposedly in the business community, meaning owners of businesses, are responsible for the county economy, and that this is the most important value in the county. And therefore, these particular people should have more of a voice or a vote than other people in the community. And I don't want to see the rights of money prevail over human rights, nor property rights prevail over human rights or the rights of nature. So I'm very much in support of some kind of structure that includes the rights of nature, however that can be incorporated. And on the subject of the environmental advocate or the climate, whatever we call that person, I think it's really, really important to change the language on that, because it sounds like in the language we're focusing on someone who just focuses on how do we protect ourselves from climate change or how do we avert climate change, but not putting enough importance on the necessity of dramatically changing our individual land use practices relative to regeneration and preservation of healthy living soil, healthy living forests, healthy ecosystems, including the aquifers for whole living ecosystems, and not just as a measure of how many people they can support. I want us to not just look for technological fixes for carbon sequestration and think of how much emissions we're doing, but also how do we protect the natural means of dealing with that stuff? Because nature is the most powerful protector we have for climate change. So we have to do everything possible to stop destroying it, including really common practices most people aren't thinking about, like, hey, I'm going to build a home, I'm going to plant a lawn. Not the best use of the land if we want to preserve the environment for climate change or any other purpose. So I want us to really think about how can we regenerate and protect it. So that's the subjects I'll cover right now. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, it looks like I had a hand up from, was it Daniel Schwartz?
Good evening. My name is Daniel Schwartz. I live on San Juan Island, and I'm the chair of the San Juan County Republican Party. Reading through that list, there's a number of areas I'd like to address, but I'll start with the climate policy. And I thought Alexandra made some good points about how we preserve these wonderful islands. I don't think there's anybody on these islands that isn't totally committed to maintaining the quality of our environment here. But there's always a but. The creation of another position, a very poorly defined position as a climate czar or climate director, is an idea that I see absolutely no connection with how we manage our county. Whether you want to look at it from the point of view of adding another salaried position that we have to pay for in taxes, and well, that person needs staff, which will also cost us at a time that more and more property in the islands is being taken off the tax rolls. and turned into parklands, which is a good thing. I think a lot of us support that. But to add more FTEs on the tax salary payroll, I think is a terrible idea. And again, you know, you look even beyond that. We could depopulate these islands, get rid of every motor vehicle, disconnect our electrical supply from the mainland, and 10 years, 100 years, 10,000 years, you will not see any effect on the environment of this planet, especially with countries like India and China building hundreds of coal-fired power plants every year. So the fact that we would allocate resources to having a climate czar in our county, if there's enough individuals, if they want to volunteer, they want to be activists in this field, that's wonderful. They can do that, have at it, but why don't make all of us pay taxes for that? And I'll address some other things later on, either today or in tomorrow's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Others who would like to comment? I'm scrolling through. So a lot of you, again, you have your video off, so I can't see. So if others want to let me know who is got a hand up. Brian, did I see you with a hand up there?
Not yet, but thank you.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry.
Kevin, I know David Tournoy has his mechanical hand up.
Okay, go ahead, David. Are you a member of the public now?
Am I not a member of the public? I hope so.
Well, you're also a commissioner, so.
Thank you, David. Excuse me, thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Bob, for pointing me out. No, I'm not a commissioner. I am the chair of the County Democratic Party, for what it's worth. But I'm not talking tonight as a Democrat. I'm talking as a member of the county. I have two issues I want to address tonight. The first one is ranked choice voting, also known as instant runoff voting. Alexandra briefly mentioned that. It's something that we have the ability to do here in our county because we have nonpartisan races and we are a charter county. And I would like to see us do that for a number of reasons. First, it's a much more democratic process. It allows you to vote for who you really want to win that position, even if that person doesn't have much of a chance, because you then get to rank all the other people running for the office. And as you take off the last place finisher and then the next last place finisher and so on, you eventually get to the person with the most votes. This allows no vote to be wasted, no vote to be thrown away. People would be able to vote their first choice for who they really want and then fall back on other choices as they go along. There are 20 states that now use some form of this process. There are 38 bills currently in state legislatures around the country related to ranked choice voting. There have been a lot of arguments used against it, but in each case they've been disproven. The main argument against it is that it costs way too much money to implement. The state of Maine now uses ranked choice voting in almost every instance. They were told that it was going to cost them $3 million to implement. It turned out it cost $100,000, not $3 million. So it can be implemented pretty easily. There are computer programs that can deal with this. So ranked choice voting is a real step forward for representative democracy, and I would like to see us implement it here in our county. The other issue I want to address is the docket request that Joe Simons has submitted for a build-out analysis. Those of you who've been in the county a long time know Joe has been trying to get this done for many decades. And the big question is, how many people can live in our county without appreciably changing the quality of life? And we don't know that. We won't know that until we know what, by choosing different populations, what the quality of life would be at those different points. Joe first requested this back in 2001, and it was plugged by the Planning Commission. It was approved by the county council at that time, but nothing was ever done. Now, one of the things we need to know is how much water do we have? And luckily, we have a state senator, Liz Lovelet, who is agreeable to helping to fund a water inventory between the state and the USGS. We are hoping to have approved in the next couple months in the legislature the funding for doing a water inventory analysis here in the county. So we'll know what kind of water we have for the future. So I just want to mention that we have a vision statement that is wonderful. It talks about a small, rural, quiet community. And if we want to remain true to that vision statement with our updating of the comprehensive plan, we really need to know how many people can sustainably live here. So I'd like to just put in a plug for mentioning the build out analysis. And that's it for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to go to Bob Gamble. You're muted, Bob.
You're right, Kevin. Sorry. Thank you. I'm Bob Gamble from Orcas Island, and I'm in the middle of making my own bacon burger. I noticed one of your items was an elected county manager position, and I'm very much against that. And the reason is, I think back to, I won't mention any names, but a past many times elected county official, not a county council person, who was an extraordinarily good at getting elected. And I don't feel he was necessarily really good at his position. He tied up a lot of other people in the county in knots, I feel. And a county manager is a position of administration, and you can have an extraordinarily good administrator that might be very poorly at getting elected. So I feel it's very important we elect the council, that's critical, and let them elect a manager, because being good at being elected is totally different than a person that's a good manager. That's all I wanted to say. I might speak more later. Thank you very much. You guys have been very busy in your short time at this. I can't believe how many items you brought up to discuss. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, others who would like to comment this evening? I'm looking, I'm not seeing it. Oh, there it is. David, please. You're muted.
Which David?
I'm sorry, it just says David's iPhone 5S. So,
Thank you.
and if you could introduce yourself, please.
I'm David Roseberry from Orcas Island. I would like to comment on, to me, an elected manager might get us an unqualified manager. I think that we need an appointed one. The build out analysis, I totally agree with. I think that should be done. The water the water funding, I think is the critical piece. A third one that I didn't see on there was a new employee, I guess you'd say, of an ombudsman that can, I think that almost answer the phones on a regular basis and be able to steer somebody in a direction. I've had 2 instances of, and even currently in one, where trying to get a hold of the planning department, the nearest thing that I could do was leave a message, and that was like 2 days ago, for just an answer of somebody saying, hey, the fee of the application went up. And it's Friday, and I'll get that maybe next week. But I'd like to have somebody be able to spear the impetus to give us some answers. And I find it real slow, the system that they've got there. I think that the phone system went haywire yesterday, and I tried to call them again, and all I could get was, I'm sorry, but you take a look at your number, take a look at the phone number again. And I called it, when I get that, I usually try it 2 or 3 times. And it's still at the spot of, it's like the phone line into it broke or mine broke. I don't know. But I would like to have somebody that can question and give me an answer within, I don't know, within, I think a full day, maybe 2 days would be fine. Be able to clean up the mess on Friday. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents into this. I appreciate that we can do this, and thank you guys for your time. And that will be all from me.
All right. Thank you, David, very much. Okay. Others? I'm looking for hands. Kat, you keep writing in chat. Do you have something you want to share?
I was just curious of what, it sounded like there were certain options or to discuss, and I didn't know what they were.
Oh,
So
no. Sorry, go ahead, but could you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Kat, and I live on San Juan Island, and I work on Orcas Island, and I'm there part-time. And I'm directing a nonprofit organization that is really wanting to support this idea of community resiliency. So it touches a lot of the things that I've heard so far around really understanding water, understanding our relationship to land, figuring out how to have citizens interact more democratically and more, respectfully. Those are some of the things I heard. Yeah, so that's me.
Okay, and just for the record, it's Kat Steele. And Kat, you in the very beginning, I went over a deck of some of the topics that are being discussed already, but that by no means limits the subject matter that we will discuss. So if you have ideas or anybody else has other ideas, please raise them tonight, and then we can put them on our agenda to begin discussing. So that's what tonight's for, not just to weigh in on what we're already looking at, but please opening up new ideas across the board.
Well, I will say something then. I
Yeah,
was recently in a meeting. Just the other day with a group that really is passionate about food waste and compost and soil, and how we might, as a county, but also on Orcas and San Juan Island, how we might figure that problem out, how we can either figure out a way to collect food waste from residents who are living in a more kind of like the urban areas of our islands, and how we might be able to set up some kind of larger scale composting system for everyone. So that's something I'm interested in and love to support.
Excellent. Thank you, Kat. Thank you. And we're going to go to Leith in just a second. I just want to say that the other thing, and the composting idea is a great example of this. The charter couldn't create the policy that would say we're going to create a composting system. What it would do is say, what's the agency or department that's going to tackle that, or what's the construction of the county government that would best find those sorts of solutions. So I would encourage us all also to really think through kind of backing up from the policy that we want to see to what's the possible solution that the county could develop, or the baseline that the county could develop to get us there. But I love that, Kat, and thank you for raising that. Okay, so Leith, you have your hand up?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, thank you.
Leith Stemplin from Orcas, and I just had 3 different things I wanted to make a comment about. I unfortunately don't know a lot about the climate group, and I plan on seeing if I can get more information about that. But the one thing off the top of my head that didn't really sit very well with me was that it would be an election position. And I agree with the fact on the county manager. I also agree that that should be an appointed position, not an elected position. So for both of those, I would support that. Another thing I would like the election group to look at is that our elections for our county council have always been nonpartisan. And I would like to see something happen that whichever party is running, whether they're a Democrat or Republican or a third party, that something needs to be done that those parties cannot sponsor one of the people running for the elected office. I think it's supposed to be a nonpartisan race. It always has been in the years that I have been involved in it. And I think for any one of them to endorse a candidate gets us away from it being a nonpartisan race. And I'd really like the elections group to look at that as to what could be done to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee. I want to point out one thing. It was the county charter that made the county council nonpartisan. Up until the first county charter passed 15 years ago, the council positions, they were then called commissioners, and they were partisan positions. So that's when that change took place in the county. But thank you so much for your comment. Others that would like to comment this evening? I'm looking for hands here.
Kevin, C. Carter has the hand up.
Okay,
Oh, mechanical hand.
Thank you so much. Carter, do you want to go? C. Carter?
Yes, thank you. My name is Cindy Carter. I'm from Orcas Island, and I was wanting to speak about the ranked choice voting, just saying that it seems in the counties and places that it's being done that the people's favorite never gets elected as attrition takes over, and it seems to be disenfranchising voters. So also about the water amount, I had heard previously that county managers had said that the water amount we have is all due to rainfall. So I would think that it would be pretty easy to ascertain the water amount and the amount available for people. I don't believe that's true, that it is due to just rainfalls. We have springs that give us water at the top of Mount Constitution, even after 60 days of no rainfall. But that is what I have heard county officials state. So that seems to be kind of a waste of time and effort. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments this evening. Okay, others? Toggling through.
Kevin, Brian Goodremont has his hand up.
Great, thank you. Brian, do you want to go?
Yep, thank you, Kevin. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the folks that decided to serve on this board. I appreciate your service. I wanted to echo that I agree with Mr. Gamble. I don't know Mr. Gamble's first name, and David, about keeping the county manager as an appointed position for all the reasons that Mr. Gamble outlined, which I'd like to emphasize the fact that it doesn't seem to be reasonable to pursue that as a political position, considering the knowledge, skill, and ability that it requires as an administrative role. The other big topic I'd like to speak about is I became quite concerned when I heard that there have been discussions with the committee regarding tourism and the Visitors Bureau potentially becoming a county entity. I've served on the Visitors Bureau board for 5 years, from roughly 2011 to 2016 during the tourism master plan period. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that during that period of time, every decision that the tourism board went through was viewed through a prism of sustainability. It wasn't just businesses serving. It was hotel owners. It was representatives from the parks, from land managers, from the library, from law enforcement, from the ferries. And it took 3 years for us to develop a very strong tourism master plan, which directs our tourism dollars and sustainable growth. And I really don't think that there's any reason to try to shift that to a county position. It took us 15 years to really get to the point where we have a great representative board of the entire island, all constituents, not just businesses. And I would hate to stop that. And yeah, thank you for having this open forum.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Thank you very much for those comments. Others? Brian, did you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Kevin, and good evening, everybody. I really joined to listen tonight, and I didn't expect to say anything. Interested in what's going on, but I wanted to make a comment about the idea of doing a build-out analysis. And I assume that would probably fall under Anne Marie's environmental group. Excuse me.
And Brian, I'm sorry, could you just introduce yourself?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Brian Weiss from Orcas Island.
Okay, thank you.
The idea of a build-out analysis is an interesting one. I've had a couple of conversations with Joe Simons about it. The county believes that it is doing a build-out analysis as part of the comp plan in their land capacity analysis. I've done build-out analyses before, 30 years ago when I was a planner on Nantucket. I did a build-out analysis. And basically the county's land capacity analysis is looking at the amount of land and what it will hold. How many people can you jam onto the amount of land that we have under current zoning? That's it. And they say we can have a capacity of, I forget exactly what it is, but 28,000 people or whatever. What I think Joe is talking about is something different. And it's related to what we used to call carrying capacity. That is, how many people can we have to maintain environmental quality in terms of water, in terms of power and other resources. Traffic certainly is one thing. All of that is important stuff. But beyond that, there are more subjective characterizations of quality of life. And really, it's really hard to put, to objectify those, to put criteria on them to determine what it is we want. But at the same time, I think that it's important for people to look at those criteria in terms of the quality of life that they want. So maybe doing that kind of a build-out analysis is important just in order for people to think about how it is we want to live here and what we want to see. I don't know the answers to that, but the exercise in itself, I think, could be very valuable. Thanks.
Brian, thank you so much. Okay, others that would like to speak? A lot of folks here. We got about 75 people here. So Kelly, are you just applauding or would you like to speak? Okay, please, Kelly, and then we'll go to Lauren. And then Sean.
I just want to express, my name's Kelly Unger, and I am actually a resident of San Juan Island, Friday Harbor. I run an Airbnb, and I am thus a business person. And I agree with the first Brian, who I didn't get his last name, that our tourism should be managed by the Chamber of Commerce with the representative board that they have. And I think to bring, again, more under the county, increase payroll and everything that goes along with that. Just, it seems like we've got a good system going now. We have responsible and well-represented Chamber of Commerce, and I just wouldn't like to see that changed, so.
Thank you very much for commenting this evening. Okay, and we're going to go to Lauren Stevens.
Hi, I'm Lauren Stevens, and I'm from Lopez Island. And I just want to say, I only speak for myself, not for anyone else that I am closely associated with.
Tell them hello.
Okay, I will. Number one, I want to say I strongly feel, like many others have expressed, that having a professional county manager who's not an elected position is very important. And I don't think I need to say more about that. The idea of creating a new position of some kind of climate czar, I think is not necessary. I think you can achieve the goals of trying to have the county be aware of climate issues and act on it in different ways without spending a lot of money on a new position. And then my third thing is, on the list I found on your website, it says one of your items you're discussing is to have each island be incorporated and have self-governance. And I think our county is too small to add another layer of operation for the counties. I think that's why we elect people from the different areas of the county. And I think that it would be a bad situation to try and do that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Lauren, very much. Chom?
Hi, my name is Chom Grison. I'm a resident of Lopez Island. Thank you so much for this opportunity to comment. I'm also really grateful for the great work that the commissioners have been doing, really reaching out to people to participate in this democratic process. I highly value your work. Thank you for your service. I would like to speak in support of the suggestion that the preamble should be expanded in the U.S. Constitution. It's really important that there's some values there stated, and the one that I would like to highlight on, and that should be reflected at our county level, in the Home Rule Charter, which is thought of as our local constitution. That value is, to form a more perfect union. Over time, that circle of union has expanded to include slaves, to include women, to include people of all colors, immigrants, and so on. And what I like to speak to today is that I would love to see that our preamble also has statement of values or guiding principles that also include our ecosystem, nature, because without, they are also living beings that really support the well-being of humans. So would love to see that perfect union circle expands to also include nature. And that could be in a form of Bill of Rights or rights of nature, whatever form is appropriate, but I would like to see that, that we have some guiding principles included in the Home Rule Charter. Another point that I'd like to speak to is I really appreciate the fact that the Commission would like to elevate the issue of climate change somehow in the home rule charter. I'm not sure how best to do that. I don't know enough to say, if, it's necessary to create a new department or commissioner, but I do want to support the idea that the issue of climate change is elevated somehow in our local constitution. I also would like to support the idea of allowing electronic signatures, given, the experience that we have had with the pandemic. It seems to be in keeping with the current situation. I also want to bring up the issue of transparency and public records. I very much want to support any movement towards increased transparency. So any documentation or records that can be made available electronically, that's great. However, with the experience of the Lopez School, the public records could also potentially be abused and could, become quite a burdensome cost to the school to implement. I just want to caution this, the suggestion that public records should be made available for free. Anyway, those are some of my comments, and I would like to also ask too if there will be any other opportunities to also provide comments on other final points, maybe through written comments or whatever. I'd love to learn about ways to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments this evening, Chom. To your final point, I was actually thinking this earlier. Each of the subcommittees is open to the public. And so you're welcome. So if there's an issue like on climate or on transparency or something, you can go and attend those weekly subcommittees meetings and be in on those meetings. And then the general full commission meetings, we also have public comment at the end of each of those meetings. And so every week you can weigh in, and I would encourage people to sit in on our meetings and listen to the conversations. There's many of the points that have been raised this evening regarding the elected versus appointed of the county manager, regarding the climate position, regarding the visitors discussion. Most of the points that have been raised tonight have come up in our discussions back and forth. And so you're seeing nodding from different commissioners, some saying, yes, I love you that you're saying that, and others saying no, because there's different opinions, right? And so I would really encourage all of you not just to participate this evening, but please join us in some of those subcommittee conversations as well as the full commission conversations. And then you can always write to us at any time and provide us written comments. That would be great. So there's a lot of people commenting in the chat about their support for rights of nature and so on. I would encourage you to please raise your hand and say that publicly too, so that we can get it on the record as well. That would be great. So Kat, you've already gone, but I'll circle back to you. Kenny, did you want to talk? You put that in chat. You're muted, sorry.
Oh, there I go. Yeah, I definitely support the rights of nature. And my name's Kenny Ferrajaro. I use he, him pronouns, and living on Coast Salish territories here. Yeah, and I also support ranked choice voting too. I really appreciate that. So, and thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments this evening. And comments to the full Charter Review Commission can be emailed to sjccharterreview@samwonco.com, and it's in the chat too. So you could just cut and paste it from the chat as well, but it's SJC Charter Review. So others that would like to comment this evening, please. Did I see a hand?
Kevin, Madeline Holliday has her hand up,
Okay,
as
Madeline.
does Kelly again.
Okay, Madeline, please.
I think it's Micheline.
Oh, I'm sorry, Micheline. I did not see. Yes, it is. Yes. Micheline Hall. Are you there? Okay, we'll come back to you. Allison, I saw you took yourself off mute. Did you want to speak?
Yes.
Okay.
I just
could you
I'm
please introduce
taking your
yourself?
suggestion and speaking up. I'd like to say that I think ranked choice voting would be a wonderful thing in our county. That we're fortunate to be able to choose to do that, and I just think it's a great idea. So often, you know, I'd really like to vote for this person, but that person is more likely to get enough votes to actually win if I'm putting my vote into that person, and, you know, et cetera. This way you get to choose the person you want the most, and then the second choice, and so on. And I think it potentially could save the county money too, because you wouldn't have to have a primary election. You would just have one ranked choice election, which would take care of both primary and the general. So that's what I had to say.
Allison, could you introduce yourself for the record, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Allison Longley, and I'm from San Juan Island.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Allison. And Micheline Holiday, did you want to speak? Okay, let us know if you do. Others that would like to speak this evening?
Susie, should I give this to you?
Want more noodles?
No.
David, you're not muted. And Kevin, it looks like Kelly UNGER has had her hand up for a while.
Kelly Unger already spoke. Kelly, did you?
I'm sorry. My bad.
Okay. Okay. Others that would like to
I do have, you wanted people to go on the record about their thoughts on certain things. I believe that human beings are capable of taking care of the planet without granting rights to an inanimate object. And I believe that human beings have rights. And so I am not for rights of the environment or the land or things like that. I truly believe that human beings, if there is incentive, if there is a heart to do so, that they will take care of the environment because it's for their own benefit. And I think that the amount of red tape that granting rights to the environment, to the land, to rivers, things like that is going to do, is going to exponentially increase the costs at the county level of people filing lawsuits to be able to use their own property. And I am for property rights and the ability of people to make good choices, again, with clear laws, but not rights granted to some inanimate object.
Okay, and I'm sorry, could you introduce yourself for the record again, please?
I'm Kelly Unger from Friday Harbor.
Okay, thank you very much, Kelly. Others that would like to comment this evening? There's a lot of people listening. Maybe everybody's cooking their dinner and muted.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, who is that? I didn't see you.
This is Kat Steele again.
Okay, Kat, hang on one sec, because you've already gone, and I've got
Chris Grayson.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's how I was just calling Chris.
Hi, thank you. I'm Chris Greason from Lopez Island. And yeah, I'd just like to weigh in on a few things. I strongly support the ranked choice voting, which has been shown to reduce political divisiveness and leads to election outcomes that have the broadest support. Regarding public records requests, the challenge is to find a balance between transparency, which is really essential, against the high cost of producing sometimes tens of thousands of pages of records, which need to be in response to excessively broad records requests. And then those in turn have to be redacted to remove certain personal information, and that can get really expensive. And there's certain bad actors who've made a cottage industry of making public records requests that are designed to be nearly impossible to fulfill, providing a basis for litigation against public agencies. And I don't know if this is something that can be addressed at the county level. A lot of that probably has to be addressed at the state level, but I see it as an elected official myself, as a school board member, definitely an issue I think we have to grapple with as society. Also regarding climate change, I'm just strongly in favor of the county getting out in front of this. I'm not sure if that's through an elected position or not, but just wanted to flag that much of the property in our county, and especially high value property, is at low elevations. And with increasing winter storms and rising sea levels, we're already seeing some roads getting washed into the ocean, like on Lopez Island. McKay Harbor Road was severely eroded, and it's now restricted to a single lane. And discussions about rerouting that were being pushed off until the county has a comprehensive plan. But given that so much of our property values is coming from properties at really low elevations, the waterfront, and that provides a large tax base for the county, we're potentially looking at a future where our tax base is eroding at the same time that our infrastructure is eroding. So we just need to get out in front of this issue, and I think that this is an important foundation on which to do that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chris. Others? Kat, we can go back to you.
Thank you. I just wanted to take the opportunity to go on the record, as you suggested, to just offer my support, definitely to the rights of nature, because I believe that that is not only a very important statement, but it actually would give the opportunity for human beings to have the right to take care of the land more than sometimes that we do right now. I also agree with I think it was Brian Weiss, around what I'm calling an eco footprint analysis, but to really look at to look at the bio carrying capacity of the islands to determine how many people could comfortably or responsibly live here. And I wanted to say I also totally agree with the ranked choice voting. I think that would really help us all. And I am for some type of climate leadership, as Chris just mentioned. I don't know if the elected czar is the right way to go, but I feel like we also really could take a leadership role in climate more than we have, and we have to find a way to do that pretty quickly, because not only the sea level rise, but the fires are a big issue, and we all experienced that with the smoke the last this last bit of time. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Kat, very much. Others that would like to speak? Brian Weiss, would you like to speak again?
No, Kevin, I was just putting a thumbs up to the last comment. Thanks.
Great. And I'm going to make a comment. Micheline Holiday, who we called on a couple of times, is having a problem with her audio. She messaged me, and she wanted to state on the record that she is also for creating a Bill of Rights to protect nature. So the conversation that's going on, she wanted to state that she's also supportive of that as well. So there's that. And Micheline, sorry that your audio wasn't working. So Kira Axelrod.
Bless you.
Hi, this is Kiara Axelrod, yes, bless you, of Orcas Island. And I do want to speak in favor of having some sort of formal power or authority or standing granted to environmental concerns. I feel like Alexandra made a really good point towards the beginning that's sort of been carried throughout, in that often business interests are sort of given a platform above other interests, it seems, probably in general and also in the county. And it seems that we do need some sort of mechanism to formalize representing interests of the environment, non-human life that is so often on the losing end of environmental interest or of business interests. Thanks.
Thank you very much for commenting this
And-
evening. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I currently have a position on whether that's an elected or appointed position or part of the purview of someone holding a new elected or appointed position, or whether that's granting legal standing to the environment. But I think we need something.
Thank you very much. Others that would like to comment this evening? Ben, please go ahead.
Hi, Kevin. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. My name is Ben Bama. I am a resident of San Juan Island, and I just wanted to go on record saying that I too support the rights of nature and whatever we can do to make that happen. You know, we're the only species that's gonna represent nature. They're not gonna do it, and unfortunately, we wouldn't let them even if they wanted to. So, but anyway, I just wanted to go on record saying I support that. I would love to see it happen. And
Great.
thank you very much for your work.
Thank you, Ben, very much for commenting this evening and participating. Others that would like to comment tonight? Any new ideas? Doesn't have to be new. You can still say you support something that's been discussed, but we really want to hear from you tonight while we've got this opportunity. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody. Okay, yes, crickets. Alexandra, go ahead, and then we'll go back to Henning again.
I just have a question regarding the Visitors Bureau. And this, probably I could find this out somewhere else, but I want to understand the reasoning behind the suggestion to move it to the county. And also, are there not restrictions on what's done with taxation on tourists, meaning like the lodging tax? Where can the money come from for tourists that can help mitigate the impacts from tourism that people who don't profit from it are concerned about?
Yeah, so we're not going to get into too much of a back and forth tonight. That's what our different meetings are for. So I would really encourage you to, and I'll touch on I'll answer part of one of your questions though. But I am not on the committee, that's the subcommittee that's discussing that. So I'm not directly familiar with it anyway. I know that it's been discussed because it's come up from those subcommittees. And so I would ask that you, when you get an opportunity, sit in on that separate subcommittee. It's the governance committee. It's the governance committee that's discussing that. And then you can hear that discussion in person and comment at the end of their meeting as well. You are correct that there are state restrictions on the funding, on how that funding is spent. And it's to be spent on promotion of tourism. And there's a bunch, that's a very high level summary of it, but you are correct. There are restrictions on how it could be spent. It does not dictate, the state statute, however, does not dictate if the county do that or an outside entity do that or something. And I think that's been the discussion in the subcommittee. And again, I'm not on that, but please do sit in on that governance committee meeting. And I may do so too, just to see what's going on. So thank you for your question. We're going to go to Henning and then Bob Gamble.
Well, I just wanted to voice my support to the idea of giving visibility to rights of nature and to have the county express its commitment to protect the environment through some kind of a position. Again, I don't know whether environment law is the right way to go about this, but I do think that the county should be a voice in dealing with the degradation of the environment that we're all suffering from. And as a farmer who has been dealing with soils and water and air and animals and trees and plants of various kinds for more than 50 years here on this island of Lopez, I know for a fact that nature is not inanimate. Nature is very much alive. And it's a presence I experience every day. And I'm deeply concerned that human beings are consuming nature at an alarming rate, and that it is high time that we protect that natural environment that we all depend upon for our survival.
Thank you very much, Henning. Bob Gamble, and then Sharon Abreu.
Okay, I'm sure you may already know this, but the state of Alaska and the state of Maine both have ranked choice voting. They've just started. I'm not sure exactly when. May have been in 2020, but maybe before in Maine. I think it's just for certain state elections, but it's a possible source of resources as you are talking about this item. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much, Bob. Okay, Sharon Abreu.
Yeah, I'm just seeing some things in the chat about ranked choice voting. And there's a lot to be discussed about it because there are things that are misunderstood about it or misrepresented about it. And it actually, there's a comment in the chat that one party is overrepresented in San Juan County. I think more people may vote one way, but I don't think that means that it's overrepresented. I just think that that's more of the people in the county have certain political leanings at this point in time. At another point in time, it was different from the way it is now. But in any case, one thing about ranked choice voting is that it should help with a two-party system. You should be able to actually have people of varying beliefs within a political party and different political parties. I mean, we're nonpartisan in this county, which is actually to our advantage. But I'm saying it could be actually a less partisan thing. Yes, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, but we don't want to get into a back and forth this evening.
Right. I just think there's an opportunity for us to have that at some point, not tonight.
Yes, exactly. So in the subcommittee, discussing that would be an excellent way to have that discussion. And that's the elections committee is actively deliberating that. And so if folks want to go to the elections committee, and I hope that one thing that comes out of tonight is that a lot of you will engage in the weekly meetings that are taking place where these discussions are taking place, so you can hear those discussions and then comment directly on them. I think that would be really helpful to the outcome and the product that we create. So with that, are there any others that would like to comment this evening? Please go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Kai Sandburn. I live on Lopez Island, and I just wanted to speak up in support of the rights of nature. I work with a group that's been exploring it for a long time. And I think rights of nature is important because we realize that that we are running out of time and we are facing multiple crises, not just the climate crises, but species loss and just numerous crises based on the way we have treated nature as merely property without respect and regard for the integrity of the system as a whole. And I think rights of nature asks us to look at the integrity of living systems. And I think that's a very different way to assess, make decisions and assess risks and benefits. So just on the record for the rights of nature. And thank you for your work.
Thank you very much. Others that would like to speak this evening? Anybody else? I don't see any hands. Okay. Well, I'm stuck here for another great while because if somebody shows up late, we got to be here for them. But I think it's great that we had, I think upwards of right around 75 people here this evening. So at least a lot of people listening in. And again, there's the subcommittee meetings are happening each week, and as well as the full Charter Review Commission meeting weekly as well. And I really encourage each of you to sit in on some of those meetings, and particularly on the different subject matters that you're most interested in. And please tell others to do so. Again, once in a decade, we have this opportunity. So let's get it right, and let's all engage as best we can. And I see a lot of chat going back and forth about rights of nature and visitors bureau. So I would encourage those of you in the chat to go to the meetings and participate, please. And Liz, I see your hand up. Would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you, Kevin. I said it might be important for us to let the public and the folks that are here know our intent of what we've committed to doing with all the comments, and that we'll take every recommendation. It will be assigned to a specific subcommittee that will then pursue and include it in our conversation about that specific subject. So anyway, I just thought it was important to let you know that we value what you're saying, that we appreciate you being here, and that it doesn't fall on deaf ears, and we will include it in a subcommittee conversation, which will then bring it to the full commission's attention. So thank you so much. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you so much for raising that. I had neglected to do so earlier and I wanted to. So thank you, Liz. I really appreciate that.
You got it.
And so any new subjects that come up tonight will go to the appropriate committees. And then any other comments reinforcing or opposing different issues that are being discussed will also be shared with those committees if the commissioners weren't here. But I believe most of our commission was here this evening as well.
It looks like Julianne has her hand up.
Oh, please. Okay, Julianne, please go ahead.
Hi there, everyone. This is Julianne Battaglia from Lopez Island. And I wasn't going to speak, but maybe I should. I feel like you guys have heard from me so much that I feel kind of like I shouldn't say anymore. But in this public arena, I would like to express my support for a Bill of Rights, an expanded Bill of Rights that includes rights for nature as well as expanded rights for us as residents, and a preamble that is has climate issues in its focus. And I also really want to express my support for the voting, what do you call that? The rank voting.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to thank you guys for thinking about the electronic signatures, which I spoke to many of you about, and I'm really happy to see that on the agenda. And also there was one item that I didn't hear much of tonight, was the initiative process. The way it's written now, an initiative is not allowed to be brought to the public if it's going to cost the county any money. And I think that that's a real obstacle for our democracy. And I'd like to state that on the record. Thank you all. You're doing a great job, and really appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you very much. And I will say on the last issue that's being discussed as well. So thank you for weighing in on that. There's an active discussion within the commission to look at how do we broaden the ability of the initiative process without making it so that it becomes burdensome or frivolous, where people are filing initiatives that aren't appropriate. So there's a balance there. It's similar to, I believe Chris brought it up earlier, the balance with public records as well. Many of these things, it's a balance where you want to make it as broad as possible so that it can have the greatest impact and the most participation without making it burdensome or frivolous for the county as well. So thank you for that.
I'd just like to say one more thing in terms of somebody was mentioning about business versus nature. And without nature having rights, business will always win because of the Commerce Clause. The Commerce Clause says basically that anybody who wants to make money, even if it's off of nature, trumps anything that has to do with protecting nature. And when you give nature rights, you change that because you give nature standing, and then nature has standing equal to a business entity wanting to abuse nature in order to make money off of it. And it's a very, very, very powerful change of view. And it's, I think it's so important that we start making that change of view happen in our judiciary and our judiciary system, because otherwise nature's always going to lose. As that other person said on this, nature always loses, because nature it's written in the law that nature will lose because of the Commerce Clause.
Thank you very much. There's a question regarding the incorporation and so on. So that would be in the purview of the committee. This is in the chat. It was a question of whether or not that would be in the purview of the commission. And I think what you mean is the full commission. Yes, it would be in the purview. There are some legal questions, however, with regard to whether or not an individual island could incorporate. And we have an opinion actually suggesting that that may not be the case, that we may not be able to do so, but there's some questions on that still under discussion. And so I would encourage you, this from Bob, to attend a commission meeting and hear more about that as well. So I'm going to go to Jane and then Bob Gamble and then Alexandra. And I wanted to say something else. We've had a wonderful number of comments on the rights of nature. Before Jane speaks, Jane is chairing our Equity and Inclusion and Justice Committee as well. And there's an active discussion in that committee with regard to the rights of the citizens and making sure that we are truly equitable and just as a county. And so if any of you have comments on that as well, Jane's committee is actively discussing those topics and some really interesting ideas to address that and make sure that we're more equitable and just going forward. So Jane, you had a comment?
I simply wanted to say that while participants here may not be aware, there was a county council resolution number 31, 2020 passed last year in the wake of what was a somewhat tumultuous year in terms of race relations, et cetera. It is a resolution that commits to a safe and inclusive community in the San Juan County. And so our committee, our subcommittee on justice and equity is looking into how the county government is making an effort to live up to that resolution, if you will. But we're looking beyond that as well. And Kevin spoke to that in the presentation he made and referenced the sort of two big issues that we're looking at as a subcommittee. So I just wanted to speak, all I wanted to say in response to a comment made earlier, quite early in the meeting about a participant, by a participant, was that we are very interested in hearing from various stakeholders, and our subcommittees want to ensure that we hear representative views from as many stakeholders as possible, and are ready to listen and hear diverse views. It's not always easy to hear from folks who don't necessarily engage. And so it is our responsibility really as a commission to ensure that we're doing everything we can to hear from as many representative voices as possible. So I just wanted to say that I respect what that speaker said earlier in the meeting, that we want to have a broad cross-section of voices heard in this process. And that is why, to reinforce what Kevin is saying, we welcome participation in our pretty open and transparent process. And thank you very much. It's a delight to hear and see all of you here today.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, Bob Gamble, you had your hand up again?
Yeah, just very quickly, since if you have a little bit of time, if the members of the Charter Review Commission could simply introduce themselves. I know there are lists of those, but this way we can put faces to names. Just a thought.
Yeah, actually, so Alexandra had her hand up, and then I will see if anybody else does, and then we will do that. Thank you. That's a good suggestion, Bob. So Alexandra, please.
I just wanted to raise a different issue than I've raised before that has been talked about tonight, and that has to do with something about governance, which is my understanding is that both the vision statement and the comprehensive plan are sort of aspirational documents that don't necessarily have any specific teeth to them. And I had proposed something about what the county council's responsibility was specifically to make sure that the plan, including the vision statement, actually is reflected in the county code. And that, you know, there's a lot of angles on that because it seems like there have been some docket submissions, mine included, regarding, you know, for example, people have been talking about the climate change thing, that we don't need a particular person in a particular role to handle that. And I, you know, took that to heart and actually went through and proposed some specific changes to the county code with environmental concerns in mind. But I'm just wanting to see if there's some way that we can change the specific responsibilities of someone, the county council is what I had proposed, to make sure that things that relate to environmental concerns are actually implemented and enforced. Because I can see that there's a couple of different layers, whether we're talking about zoning issues or vacation rental issues or whatever it may be. It seems like a lot of people get into talking about, you know, wouldn't it be great if we had whatever it is, the rights of nature or this or that, and we put it in an aspirational document and then nothing really happens when it comes right down to a building permit being issued or a vacation rental permit being issued or a zoning change happening. And so I wanted to see whether there's something we could do right in the charter relative to governance that made it clearly someone's responsibility to implement and enforce some of these aspirational things that we've been talking about here, particularly concerns that affect the environment. And to that end, I want to say one other thing, which is an observation relative to the comprehensive plan, as a lot of people have put in, wouldn't it be nice if we had X, Y, and Z? But my understanding of the very concept of carrying capacity is that it is how many members of a species can be supported in the natural ecosystem without eliminating other species or degrading the environment. And we have long since exceeded the carrying capacity for human beings, given our behavior, if not our sheer numbers. Meaning, not only what are we doing in terms of how much impervious surface are we creating, how much are we cutting down trees, destroying healthy forests, healthy soil by our practices, but the sheer number of us may exceed the ability for us to all live here, no matter what we do, relative to just the fact that we have to be alive. You know, we use water, we need food, we use transportation, we do all these things that, you know, bear some consideration. And I'm not sure how that should affect the charter, but I'm quite concerned about it, you know, just sort of thinking about the long term and everything. Like, we're looking at the issue of growth and thinking, well, you know, who am I to pull up the drawbridge and say no one else should come? And I'm thinking it's the wrong question, because if we really do want to protect the environment, which I think is going to be required in order to prevent us all being destroyed by climate change, then we really do need to look more deeply at issues of growth and not just assume that we can all, you know, have our dreams come true, you know, the American dream and all that kind of stuff. So it's just an issue I wanted to raise for people to think about, but in, you know, in specific to that governance thing, you know, who's responsible for making it happen? And I don't know if the county charter can say anything about how many enforcement officers we have, because one for the whole county is clearly not adequate. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, and so one thing I will say that you got a lot of thumbs up as you were making those comments. So one of the things I want to say, first of all, on the Charter Review Commission, we have some very talented attorneys. And then our prosecuting attorney is also giving us just extraordinary advice on a regular basis. And I will say that my understanding of the discussions within the subcommittee that's addressing those sorts of issues, like the preamble to the charter, as well as a Bill of Rights of Nature, is there's a discussion looking into how the charter could do that. Because some of the points you made are really important points, but they wouldn't necessarily fit within the charter. They would be a policy that the legislative body, in our case, the county council, would adopt. And I will say also that on land use matters, there is a state statute and some case law that is very clear that there are some duties that are solely assigned to the legislative body of a local government. So in our case, the county council. And so those couldn't be changed necessarily in the charter. They would have to be done by the county council. That all said, there's a lot the charter can do on this subject, including looking at a Bill of Rights of Nature and such. And so we're getting legal advice on how that could happen. And then there'll be a discussion of if we as a body decide that that's a recommendation we want to put forward. And then again, it will go to the county council where the county council, just as far as the process, when they get our recommendations, they have to move them forward. They can create others that they want to move forward at the time, but they do not have the right to just say we don't like them and throw them in the trash. They will be going to a vote of the people. So that will happen. So why don't we do Bob's suggestion? Let me ask quickly, is there any other hands up? Anybody else that hasn't commented particularly, or anybody that even has that wants to make a comment? Okay. So what I'm going to do is for the Charter Review Commissioners who are still on, if you would take a moment and just introduce yourself. And if you're chairing a committee, I would like you to say what committee that is, or actually, even if you're not chairing a committee, if you could just say what subcommittees you're on, and then also what time it meets. And in case some folks have already left and we're missing any, just as a heads up, Catherine, I'll call on you at the end to cover, or maybe Olivia, to cover any committee meetings that we didn't have spoken of so that folks know what time they meet. So I'll start. I'm Kevin Ranker. I am chairing this crazy, wonderful process. And I am on the Climate and Environment Committee subcommittee, and I'm also on the Equity and Justice Committee, and soon to be on the governance too, because I've gotten very interested in what they're discussing. So I'll be joining theirs as well. And I think I might be on something else, but I'm going crazy and can't remember. So I'm overcommitted. That's what that tells you. Let's go to Olivia.
Everybody, I am on the governance committee and also operations.
Wait, who are you?
What? Who am I? I'm Olivia. I'm the vice chair. Sorry. And I live on Orcas Island. There's all the data. I am on the operations committee, which meets Saturday from 9 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock, and the governance committee, which is Thursdays from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. If you forget any of these times, you can go to our webpage that we put in the chat quite a few times. And all of the times, the Zoom links, the agendas, everything's there for you to view. And if you'd like to participate, that would be fantastic.
Okay, just on my screen, I'm just going to start going across. So I've got Sharon Abreu.
Hi, I'm Sharon Abreu, 20-year resident of Orcas Island. I am serving on the Justice and Equity Committee, the Climate and Environment Committee, the Elections Committee, and the Governance Committee. So I'm also overcommitted, but it's really very, very interesting subjects and wonderful to engage with my fellow commissioners in our communities.
Okay, Anne-Marie Shanks.
Good evening. I'm Anne-Marie Shanks. I'm from Orcas and have had a home here for more than 30 years. I chair the Climate and Environment Committee, and we meet on Wednesdays from 10 to noon. And we have really interesting speakers and discussions, and I hope you'll join us. I also am on the Initiative and Referendum Committee, which meets on Monday nights at 7 p.m. and Patty Garcia is our chair.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. And you just raised a good point that I want to share with the public. We have had a number of presentations already from elected officials and other leaders. So from our county manager, from our sheriff, from many others. And we will continue to have those both before the full commission as well as the subcommittees. And we've heard from outside experts on some of these. Like, for instance, we heard from the chief of staff and the chair of the King County Charter Review Commission, because they were looking at some similar topics that we're discussing. And so if you attend a meeting, you may also get to hear a wonderful presentation from somebody and learn more about our county government or some of these topics from different outside experts as well. So from that, I'm going to go to Maureen C. and then David Dellendorf afterward.
I'm Maureen C. I am I live on San Juan Island. I was on the previous commission, Charter Review Commission. A couple of us are still on this one. I'm on the, let's see, I'm the lead on the elections, not the elections, the elected versus appointed committee. And we meet on Mondays from 10:30 to 11:30. And it's a very lively group, and the discussions were great. And I want to thank everybody who commented tonight on your opinion, because it's so great to hear it, as all of your opinions have been great. So I'm very appreciative for this evening. I'm also on the operations committee, and we meet on Saturday mornings, although we won't tomorrow, but next week we will, from 9 to 10. And again, we're biting on some big things, and I appreciate all of you. This has been a joy. Thank you.
David Dellendorf, please.
Yes, I'm David Dellendorf. I retired to San Juan Island 20 years ago. I am on 3 different committees: the elected versus appointed subcommittee chaired by Maureen C. You just heard from Maureen. I'm actually also on the elections subcommittee chaired by Tony Gazelle, who is not here today. Tony is on Orcas Island. And I'm on the governance subcommittee chaired by Dave Anderson. Dave, I think, will be speaking in a few minutes. I want to emphasize these are Zoom meetings, and the way to join the meetings is found on our website, also on the county website, which has a link to our website. And it would be great to have more and more people attend. We've had very poor attendance by the public up till now in the subcommittee meetings, at least the 3 I'm on. So this was a great conversation, and I hope we can continue it at the subcommittee level. Thank you.
Great. Let's go to Patty Garcia, and then Paul Dossett, you'll be next.
Okay, I'm Patty Garcia. I'm on San Juan Island, and I was a summer person starting at 6 years old. Finally moved up here for real on 2008. Anyway, I do chair the Initiative and Referendum meeting, which meets Monday nights at 7. And yeah, we're working to make that a robust, good thing, as good as we possibly can, to get people to be able to govern themselves as much as possible. I'm also on the process committee and the operations committee, and oh my gosh, I'm learning so much about the county that I have absolutely no reason to even think about before. But it's pretty fascinating and a lot of work.
Thank you, Patty. Paul, are you there?
I'm here, but I don't see myself on the screen. So can you hear me?
No, blacked out, but we can hear you fine.
Okay. I'm the retired county assessor, and I have a pleasure to serve on the CRC. I chair the operations committee that meets on Saturdays. I'm also on the elections and appointed committee, as well as elections residency and versus countywide subcommittee. So I look forward to having you people come on board with their subcommittees and share your thoughts with us. It's a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. Liz Lafferty, and then we'll go to Bob O'Connell.
I'm Liz Lafferty from District 3. Love saying Commissioner Lafferty. It's just really an honor to be doing this. It's so amazing to be on this side of the conversation and really see the power of the people and how much every comment matters. So I appreciate everybody being here. I am on the Preamble and Process Committee. I'm on the Initiative and Referendum Committee, and I'm on the Climate Committee as well. And I just want to encourage you all to stay with us, stay engaged, keep showing up. And particularly when we get all of our work done, it goes over to our county council, correct? And they will need to hear from you all because they'll need to hear in force that we've been listening to you and that yes, collectively we've come to a solid place and we want them to take actions in those directions. So thanks, everybody.
And then it will go to the voters, which is all of us, everybody. Yes. Okay. So Bob, please.
Oh, you're muted.
Hi, I'm this Bob.
Yep. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Bob O'Connell. I moved here with my wife 7 years ago after I practiced law in Nashville, Tennessee for 40 years. But here I am. I've always been a great admirer of the idea of democracy. And at this level, we are democracy is the closest to the people and is and produces the sweetest fruit. Okay. And I am so honored to be on this commission. I've always been a big student and fan of our own constitutional convention hundreds of years ago. And here it is. I couldn't serve on that, not quite that old, but here we are. I love it. I serve on the elected versus appointed committee and on the wonderful climate and environment committee. I chair the process committee. It is in the process committee that the preamble and the Bill of Rights are being considered. I'm sure the Bill of Rights is being considered and talked about in some other committees also. But I certainly invite the people who have talked today about whether or not we need a Bill of Rights and what it ought to contain to come to our meetings, which are on Tuesdays at 10:30. And you can find the address by how to get in there by coming to the commission's website and looking at their calendar. There'll be an address there on that day. So please come and chime in. It's very important for us to know what the populace wants in this regard and in every other regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, we're going to go to Dick Grout and then Jane Fuller will be next. You're muted, Dick.
Oh, sorry. I thought I had unmuted. Richard Grout from San Juan Island. My wife and I came here in '73. I'm on the Elected and Appointeds Commission, the Climate Committee, and the Governance. I was on a fourth one, but I decided I was crazy. It was just too many Zoom meetings. And I had told my wife, I said, my best guess, we're doing this at the dinner hour. We'll have 12 or 15 people. So I am really amazed and pleased that so many of you showed up. Thank you.
Thanks, Dick, very much. Jane, please, and then Tom Starr will be next.
Thank you, Kevin. My name is Jane Fuller. I'm from Lopez Island, represented in District 3. And I've been a part-timer here since the late 70s, full-timer since 2017 with my husband and our 14-year-old daughter who is in middle school here on Lopez Island. I co-chair the Justice and Equity Committee with Kyle Davies, a fellow commissioner who may not be present tonight. He is from San Juan Island. together we lead that group, which we're really enjoying. I also sit on the governance committee, and I also sit on the elections committee. And I'm pleased to say that in cooperation with the other District 3 commissioners, Bob O'Connor and Liz Lafferty, we're kind of like sharing committees we're sitting on, which is going really well. I just want to say that it is with great respect and gratitude that I've gotten to know the commissioners who've been elected, and it's a very rich and experienced group of people, and it's been a pleasure getting to know them, and this process has been off to a good start, and we've got lots more work to do, and deeply grateful for everyone tonight who's participated, and please spread the word, because we want more to continue weighing in. And our Justice and Equity Committee, just to give it a plug, meets on Monday evenings from 4 to 5 o'clock. If the agenda is too great, we can extend that an additional half hour. So thank you very much for being present tonight.
Thank you very much, Jane. And Tom, we'll go to you, and then Dave Anderson will be next.
Okay. Well, I just want to say it's really great to meet all you folks tonight, the ones I haven't met. I'm kind of an old timer on San Juan Island, and I did a career in land surveying here in the county, so I scrambled all over most of the islands. And I'm on the Climate Environment Committee and the Elections Committee. So again, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much, Tom. Dave Anderson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Dave Anderson. I am from San Juan Island, and I am the lead on the Governance Committee that meets Thursdays from 7 to 8. And we welcome anybody to come. And I'm also on the Initiatives and Referendum Committee, which meets Monday from 7 to 8 as well. I've lived on San Juan Island here for 9 years. My family first purchased land here in 1953 on Shaw Island, and I lived part-time there for about 10 years. And so I just got to say, working in governance and initiatives and working at supporting our democracy here and finding ways to empower people and empower our government has just been a blessing. And it's a really an exciting time when things have been rough in our country, and to be a part of a group of people as smart as these commissioners are, it's been a real pleasure. So thank you for everybody for coming tonight, and hopefully I look forward to working with you.
We're going to go to Bill Apple and then Janet.
Hi, I'm Bill Apple. I'm in Friday Harbor now. About 2 years ago, we moved here from Waldron, where I was for 40 years. Some people view that as a rise. I think Waldron Islanders view that as a great fall. Not only that, but I am a lawyer and have been for 55 years. And I'm now on the Visitors Bureau Board and on the EDC board. But I want to assure people that I'm not on the staff of the Death Star, and that my job as a lawyer is to try to reach into the fog of the strong feelings that we all feel, and I share them with you, to make them enforceable, to make them real, to make them recognized. This is no easy job. We talk ideas, but as a lawyer, at some point, you have to nail it shoes to the floor. And that's part of what I hope to do. I'm a leader of nothing. I am on the process, preamble, and rights, which is the stem from which the rest of the charter grows. And I really appreciate the comments. I will say, as a lawyer, for those who have ideas, if they could get them in the shortest possible form, in a few words, it would give our committee something to work with, because we're more than willing to consider everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Janet, please.
Yeah, so I am Janet Brunell from Orcas Island. I have lived here since 1995. Prior to this fantastic commission, I was on the school board for 19 years on Orcas. One of the things I learned on the school board is overcommitment. So I am the only person on the commission with just one subcommittee. I am on governance, and I figure I am the genius person of this entire commission to figure that one out, to just get on one subcommittee and focus on that. I am so, having come from school board and knowing public attendance, I am so grateful for the amount of people that showed up tonight. But here's what I would love to ask every single person here. The next time we have a town meeting, ask 3 of your friends to come. The more people that know about this, the better this is for our community, and it makes our job easier, because at the end of the day, there will be people saying, I never knew about this. Why is this happening? So the more people you can engage in this process, the better. And please go out, spread the word. And again, I want to recognize myself as being the genius person to being on one subcommittee. And please come to governance, because we are the rockin' committee of all the subcommittees. Thank you so much, Kevin.
I have so many things I want to say. So I think that's everybody. Are there any commissioners I haven't called on who are here this evening? We have a handful of others who couldn't make it here this evening, and they were on the list earlier. The other thing I want to say is that we will have another town hall tomorrow. It will be very similar to this, with obviously different participation and comments, but you're welcome to attend that. But the other point I wanted to make is that we are planning on having another round of town halls toward the end of our process, probably in May timeline, when we have basically begun to coalesce around recommendations, and we will be presenting those at the town halls and getting final input on those before we transmit them to the county council and then the ballot as well. And so there will be another opportunity for that. The other thing I just wanted to do is I wanted to recap what we're going to do with your comments this evening. So we're going to go through and categorize all the comments that we received this evening, and any new ideas will be given to the appropriate subcommittees to begin discussing. And then the leads of those subcommittees will also be told how many people and what sorts of comments were made on subjects they're already discussing, so that all of what came in this evening will be utilized in our process going forward. I know somebody put in the chat to discuss more about what each of the individual subcommittees are doing. I believe we went through a lot of that just now when people were talking about what committees they're on and so on. And then also there is that all information is also available on our website as well. And Jane, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Just to say, because I was, I got a direct chat saying, what times are these different meetings of the subcommittee. So just to reiterate that if you go to the San Juan County website, and a few commissioners have said this already, if you go to the San Juan County website, you will see on the left-hand side of the screen the Charter Review Commission. You can click on that, and we have a fantastic crew of folks who've been populating it with the names of our committees and when they meet and all the rest of the information, including agenda for upcoming meetings, agenda for prior meetings, minutes for prior meetings. And so, yeah, if you want to participate, please visit our link on the San Juan County website, because Olivia and Catherine Hansen have done a phenomenal job of keeping that up to date and letting the public know this is when you can log in on Zoom to this committee, et cetera. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Jane. And Olivia or Catherine, could I put one of you on the spot to just very quickly list the subcommittees when they meet again?
Sure, I can share my screen.
Okay. And while you're doing that, Liz Lafferty has put forward a motion that Janet Brunell become the liaison to all subcommittees, which I think is an excellent suggestion. I think even the public is weighing in on that now. So with that much public support, I think
mention
Janet just became a member.
Did I mention my
seven committees?
Did I mention my genius thing of like not signing up for like too many subcommittees? 19 years on the school board. Trust me, I understand this.
Yeah, well, you've just been voluntold. Okay, so there they are again. So you've got charter review process, which is kind of working through the charter itself, looking at so on. And so they meet Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12. And I don't have to read each of these. You can see them there. But again, as Jane just said, all of this information is also available on the San Juan County website. So if you go to sanjuanco.com, you can link on the Charter Review Commission page from the homepage, and then all of this information will be there. So with that, we've got 3 minutes left. So
Kevin, one quick thing. That was an incorrect piece on the elected versus appointed. It said Sunday 1 to 2, and it's actually Mondays 10:30 to 11:30. That okay.
Oh, thank you for that very much. That was Olivia trying to sneak one by you.
No.
I'll get it updated.
Alexandra asked a question. Yes, every subcommittee is being recorded, and those are. I'm not sure if they're all populated on the website yet because we've been going through and getting those up. But if they're not, they will be very shortly. So yes, you can go watch the videos of all the discussions we've had. So with that, I want to see, is there any final comments? I've seen chat.
Oh, I just saw, I think that our Tuesday process meeting doesn't start till 10:30.
That's correct. That's correct. 10:30 till 12 every Tuesday, not 10 o'clock.
Look at that.
We're slackers.
We're just, it's all right. I just love the fact that we're the commissioners and we don't even know when we meet.
Oh, we do.
We do.
Okay. Am I the only one? Okay.
But Kevin, that's because unlike Janet, all of us have multiple responsibilities, so it's harder to keep track of.
Which is why Janet should be the liaison and
Yeah.
minutes and let all of us know when we need to meet.
Agreed.
Kevin, this is Liz. We do have a second on my motion.
Okay, we've got 1 minute left before Janet runs away. We really want to thank everybody for being here this evening, taking time out of your evening to give us comments, give us feedback. Please, as was said earlier, continue to engage. This is a really important process, and we're discussing some big ideas, and many of them will probably go forward. Some of them will not, and that will be based on your input going forward. So please continue to participate, sit in on some of those subcommittee meetings, sit in on the full CRC, the Charter Review Commission meetings, and have a wonderful evening. And we look forward to hearing from you again soon. So, Bob, really, you got something right now? When
I'm back tomorrow. I just wanted to suggest that we make clear, if we haven't done it already, that everyone who came tonight is invited to come back tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, most definitely.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank
you.
you.
That's great. You guys are wonderful.
Thank you guys for all your work.
Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Olivia and Catherine, if you can hang on for 1 sec.
Great job, Kevin. I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Well done, my friend.
Thanks.
Catherine, do you want to quit recording?